Let's talk about how to approach a rhetorical analysis prompt. I'm not talking about the text. This is the Kennedy speech that you've already read. What I want to focus on is the prompt itself, which you see right here. This is the part that's going to tell you exactly what it is you need to do in order to respond in your essay. So let's take a look at the prompt. Let's break down the information it includes, and then let's look at a more recent prompt so you can see a slight change that's been made. So, our current prompt says, on April 10th, 1962, as the United States was emerging from a recession, the nation's largest steel companies raised steel prices by 3.5%. President John F. Kennedy, who had repeatedly called for stable prices and wages as part of a program of national sacrifice during a period of economic distress, held a news conference on April 11th, 1962, which he opened with the following commentary regarding the hike in steel prices. Read Kennedy's remarks carefully, then write an essay in which you analyze the rhetorical strategies President Kennedy uses to achieve his purpose. Support your analysis with specific references to the text. That is a lot. But the nice thing about the AP prompts is that they all follow the same pattern. So when you're looking at the rhetorical analysis prompt, it's always going to include the same information. The first part of the prompt is always going to be background information and context. So this part of the prompt is provided to you so you can get important background information. Must you include the information in your response? No, but you certainly can. One helpful bit of information you'll find at the beginning is the name of the speaker. Also, you will get when the speech was given, the essay was written. Again, must you include that information? Well, you need to include the author. But the date is there just to be helpful, just to provide you in your brain with a context in which this text lives. Now, the next part is much more explicit and tells you what you need to do. Except some of the things you need to do are only implied. Some of it is explicit, some of it is implicit. So as we look at these sentences, let me point out the explicit stuff and the implicit stuff. You have to do both. Okay, read Kennedy's remarks carefully. That is an explicit task. It tells you read the speech. Then write an essay, that's explicit, in which you analyze the rhetorical strategies President Kennedy uses to achieve his purpose. Support your analysis with specific references to the text. That is also explicit. Now, that's also pretty obvious and self explanatory. Yes, you need to read the text. Yes, you need to write an essay. But there's implicit stuff that you also have to do that the prompt doesn't tell you straight out to complete. Now, one of the things I know you're going to say, yeah, obviously, essay implies a lot of stuff. It implies you're going to have an introduction and conclusion. You're going to have a claim. You're going to have support paragraphs. And yes, that seems silly, but that's part of the prompt. The expectation is you know how to write an essay without a lot of extra instruction. Now, here's another implicit task. You need to analyze the rhetorical strategies. So, how is that implicit? It implies you must name the strategies. So, you can't just say he uses strategies. You have to say explicitly what those strategies are. So even though it doesn't say, "Hey, name the strategies," you need to. Now, the last implicit task is the most important. What does he use to achieve his purpose. Purpose, purpose, purpose. This particular prompt does not tell you what his purpose is. You need to figure out what his purpose is and state it explicitly. You can't just say he achieves his purpose. That is kind of obvious. The sky is blue, he achieves his purpose. You have to state what that purpose is. So even though it doesn't explicitly tell you his purpose, you have to state that. Read the speech. What's his purpose? What's he trying to achieve? You need to state that explicitly. If you don't, your essay is going to struggle. And as we continue through the year, we'll talk about why that is the case. Now, more recent prompts do provide you with some more specific information. This is from the 2020 test. This was a speech given about Kennedy, not by Kennedy. And if I look at this prompt really quickly, all of this part is the context about when it was given and who gave it. It was given by President Reagan. Then we see very similar instructions. Read the passage carefully, write an essay, etc., etc. What the new prompts include is a little bit more explicit instruction for you. Respond to the prompt with a thesis that analyzes the writer's rhetorical choices. The new term is choices rather than strategies. It's the same thing. Select and use evidence to support your line of reasoning. Explain how the evidence supports your line of reasoning. Demonstrate an understanding of the rhetorical situation, and use proper grammar and punctuation in communicating your argument. The specifics of those things we will talk about as the course progresses, but notice you are given some more explicit instruction. You need to use a line of reasoning, you need to respond to the prompt, you need to understand the rhetorical situation. But essentially, the task is the same. Now, this is also a lot of information. So, what do you do? The time has come for you to write your essay. You're looking at this prompt and your brain's just spinning. So, what do you do? I would suggest, if this is just too much for your brain to process, find the most important sentence and turn it into a question. That's the question you need to answer with your essay. And happily, that most important sentence is generally going to be the last one. So in this prompt, write an essay that analyzes the rhetorical choices Reagan makes to achieve his purpose of paying tribute to John F. Kennedy. That's the most important sentence in the prompt. That's what you need to pay attention to. And did you notice that this newer prompt gave you his purpose? That he's paying tribute to John F. Kennedy. Awesome. If the prompt tells you that, use that information. Turn it into a question. What rhetorical choices did Reagan make to achieve his purpose of paying tribute to John F. Kennedy? Answer that question, and your essay is going to be much stronger than if you don't. So pay attention to that most important sentence. Remember that you have those explicit and implicit tasks. And as you look at more prompts, this will become easier for you.